Hey, everybody.
Welcome to our flight commanders. There are several more of you who accepted this appointment, so hopefully we see you roll in here. I definitely want to encourage you to put on your cameras for our breakout session. We can have a little bit of a meet and greet since this is the inaugural session. So I think all of you know how to do that because you're experienced Juno users. You can put that, just click on your video camera. And we can meet each other before we get started here with Kyle. Hi, Belle.
Hey, Belle.
There's Diane. Hi, Diane.
You see I'm rocking it?
Yo.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
One, because my house is freezing. I refuse to turn on the heat in May.
Yeah.
Amen. Where are you in the world, Diane?
I'm in Leesburg, Virginia, Kyle.
Oh, great. I have no excuse. I had big socks on and a big jacket on this morning. I'm in San Diego, so I'm not really understanding what's going on here, but amen to that. You look comfy.
All right. We'll see if we can get Kristen to put her camera on. Belle, are you on mute maybe?
Yeah, your mic's not working again, Belle.
Oh, her mic is. That's fun. That's really fun when you have to be your own tech support, right? All right. Well, you two know each other, and I know Kristen's listening, so hopefully she will be comfortable to pop on her camera here in a minute and definitely message us. And with this group that's coming together with the flight commanders, we wanted to just kind of introduce some new ideas that would help all of you as our valued Juno clients to improve what you were doing or even affirm what you're doing, right? From a strategy level and then into some tactics and learn what others are doing, because we all know that that's where all the ideas come from, is other people. So the first guest that we've asked to come on here is Kyle Short from Wisdom Capture. And Kyle, do you want to go ahead and give a quick intro of yourself, and then we'll hear from Belle and Diane about, well, we won't hear from Belle, but we'll let Diane tell us her role.
I don't know. Can you guys hear me now?
Oh,
yeah.
I had to put
while your mic is working.
Yeah, I had to put my external mic on. Sorry. My laptop internal mic apparently died. So anyway, as I was setting up my mic, I totally missed your question. What am I supposed to be answering?
Will you introduce yourself?
Sure.
And share your role at ISCB. And in honor of the holiday weekend, let's say one thing we're looking forward to doing this weekend.
Okay. So hi, Belle Hansen. I work for the International Society for Computational Biology. Diane over here to my left, I don't know where she is on your screen, is our CEO. I am the official title Operations and Programs Senior Manager, which means I handle all of our regional and topical events and then various bits and pieces of our annual meeting. I'm kind of a jack of all trades around here, from graphics to, the events, to figuring out some best practices with, bringing everything together and then throwing my ideas at Diane and hoping a couple of them stick.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah. This weekend, I'm actually flying to IMAX on Sunday. So, I actually look forward to the long flight of like watching a movie that no one else in my family wants to watch, just having my glass of wine, putting my earbuds in.
Nice.
So,
yes.
Yeah. I will be there as well. So
all right, we'll see you there.
Yes, because it's different from IMAX America, where you just walk around and know everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can fight Dana and make her give you a jacket too.
Oh yeah.
Take it off her back.
Well, we were laughing because like our t-shirts both went to Diane. Diane's like, I have your t-shirt. I'll give it to you in July. And I was like, fine.
Need a bike courier. All right.
Well, but she's in Virginia and I live in Iowa now. So that's
that's right.
Again,
I saw that in here.
Benefit of being 100% virtual is great, thanks to digital, but yeah, not always great logistically.
Right. Hi, Jody. Welcome. We were just about to have Diane introduce herself, and then we'll hear from you.
Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. I think Belle gave a great introduction of who I am. I'm the CEO of ISCB. I get to be the mastermind behind all of our strategic program implementation, but I have a fantastic team below me that helps implement all that. Belle being one of the key producers of this. And that's why when I got this invitation, I was like, Belle, you most certainly have to do this too, because it falls within her logistical operations of how we do stuff. And then someone you won't get to meet is our tech guru, Seth, who helps with all the tech stuff behind the team. But we are certainly really excited we just launched our community platform 2 weeks ago. We had our very first event on there and it went really, really well. And I will say the complaint I received this morning, which I messaged the team, was there's so much content in the platform, I don't know where to begin.
Oh.
And I wasn't exactly sure how to respond to said complaint, but I said, thank you for the wonderful feedback. I'll create a tutorial for you. So we are really excited about using Juno really as a community platform to leverage what our mission is, and it's science equity around the world. And we definitely think that this is the place to go. Now it's just getting people to adopt the platform and use the platform. And I've already seen some traffic on there. So I'm hoping to pick everyone's mind on what they're doing and really leverage this brain trust as much as I can to keep this going.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Jody, you came on next, so we'll have you introduce yourself, and then Kristen. Hi.
Hello, Jody Van Workum. I am a senior event manager at ATD. I'm in charge of using Juno for our hybrid and virtual events. So we just did an event with about 6,000 or 7,000 attendees. We had about 3,000 virtually and then the rest in person. So we're in that phase right now because our event just ended of clearing up people's access, making sure they're seeing everything that they're supposed to and all of that good stuff. So I was excited to learn a little bit more about what this tool can do and to what other people are doing that I can steal, to be honest.
And what are you looking forward to doing this weekend, Jody?
This weekend? Oh, I don't even know what my plans are. I am coming off the annual meeting and I haven't even looked at my life and I need to do that.
And not working.
My husband broke his leg, got COVID. Oh. I had to clear for COVID to travel. I got a car accident at the conference and had to spend the night in the hospital and then went straight to work. I literally just want to sleep.
Yes. You earned it.
Good.
Oh my goodness. Where's your son through all this?
We flew in an uncle who parented on our behalf for a week and a half. So it's been a little crazy.
Yeah, really. It's good to have a support system. I like it.
Yes.
All right. So we can put some of that aside and we'll be able to focus on what Kyle's going to inspire us to think about. And after Kristen, introduce yourself, will you?
Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. I had to switch headphones. These work much better. So I'm Kristen Turner. I'm with Visit Pittsburgh. Hi, Diane. Good to see you again. And I am Director of Convention Services. And what else? Am I supposed to say, like, what I'm using the platform for and all of that?
Just kind of like what you're looking forward to for flight commanders and what you're looking forward to doing this weekend.
Awesome. Well, I'll go with Flight Commander first. So just looking forward to getting used to the platform a little bit more. We are going to be using it here very shortly. So just excited to experience it. Today's storytelling lesson, I guess I should say, sounds awesome. So I'm excited for that. And this weekend, what are we doing this weekend? Oh my gosh, we are having a kind of a housewarming party for ourselves. We just finished like a 5-month renovation to our entire first floor. And so we're just having like a huge shindig. And I didn't realize how many people I invited until they all said yes.
Yes.
It's like 70 people. And I'm like, where are they going to go? I have no idea. How am I going to cook for this many people? So I'm doing things like Googling, how much pulled pork for 70 people. Like, I just don't even know what to do with the food.
Kristen, you should just get a food truck to roll up in your driveway.
Yes. I should.
And then pay the food truck guy.
I should. That actually crossed our minds. And then we were like, no, we can do this.
It sounds
And
like
now
a CMP question.
Yeah,
How much
does.
pulled pork
It does.
for 70 people?
There's
Awesome.
answers.
I want to come to your party.
Any
Come
reference,
on over.
but we had 52 people for a hockey party, and we had 9 pounds of pulled meat, and it was a perfect amount.
9 pounds. Yeah, that's
for 50
actually
people. So
it calculated like
Yeah.
3 to 4 pound pork loins, so or pork butts, I guess. So I think that's spot on, Diane. That's spot on.
All right. Well, it looks
Marcy
like we have one of our other flight commanders, Molly. Will you pop on your camera and introduce yourself? This is our inaugural flight commanders gathering. And Megan Martin is super sad that she couldn't be here to help lead this. She is on the road. And but we have Kyle, so it kind of makes up for it just a little bit. But you're right, Megan. It's already a lot of brainstorming going on. I love it. So Molly, we'd love to have you come on and introduce yourself. But Kyle, I'm going to let you do your own introduction and
Sure,
share what
absolutely.
you're doing this weekend too.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kyle Short, the CEO of Wisdom Capture. We're located in San Diego, California, with a large, thankfully, global presence at this point. As all of you know, running events that are in multiple time zones is very, very unruly. We had one last week. It was a 4-day event that was truly global. And we were able to leverage one of our team members who was in Australia, as well as in Europe and throughout the United States. So it was not as brutal as it would have been when it was back in the day and we were a very, very tiny team just in the States. Wisdom Capture started as just a storytelling brand at its core. And we've evolved from that to include a lot more things that kind of use the power of story, use the ideas behind storytelling to accomplish many, many diverse objectives. So I'm really excited to share that with you as well. This weekend, I am very much looking forward to taking my skydiving certification course early on Saturday morning. It's something I've always wanted to do. I went once when I was 18 years old. I just had my best friend in the world in town this last weekend, and I took him out, and it was totally exhilarating. So that is the number one thing on the docket for this weekend. I'm super excited.
Awesome. That is super exciting, Kyle. Thank you for sharing. And I think that you have something that you want to share with us today in terms of storytelling, if we want to jump right in.
All right. Let me see here. I've somehow lost this window really quick here. Just a simple hit of the space bar. Let me see here. Where did everyone go? I can no longer see everybody, but I'm just going to go ahead and power forward. Can you all still hear me?
We can, and we can see the flight commander screen.
That's the most important thing here. So if at any time anybody has any questions, please, this is designed to be a collaborative program, I understand. And some of the things I'll talk about here might not be so relevant to you. So please, at any point, just go ahead and blurt it out. I'd be happy to stop and dive into anything in particular. But otherwise, we'll start to get into this thing. So part of what I've done in the past, I lived a bunch of years in South America. The craziest thing that I did was start a pet photography business. This is one of the little glimpses of that along the way. From there, we started this company back in the United States, Wisdom Capture. It's a values-based content for values-focused brands. And we have had the huge honor of working with some amazing organizations, UNICEF, Visa, Unilever, Network of Executive Women, IFT, American Heart Association, to name a few, PCMA. And along the way, I've picked up a ton of nuggets of wisdom from getting to sit and help tell the stories of many of these brands and the people behind these brands. It's really, really fascinating how wisdom works. You think that it's like these age-old axioms that just are correct. But what I learned over the years is that, so I'd be sitting with one executive and they'd say, when it comes to getting things done, you must think first and then act. And then literally 10 minutes later, another senior executive would come into the room and say, when it comes to getting things done, you always leap and then figure it out along the way. So there is just this no one size fits all when it comes to wisdom and definitely when it comes to storytelling and content creation in general. So there are a few things that stand out as foundational to me, and we'll go over those today to hopefully help make some more sense of things. So we're not going to talk about storytelling and dissecting what storytelling is overall, because that's a very, very, very broad topic. But I do think it's important to define what it means in our current context. So storytelling is not today for us, not this kind of narrative, long format. You're thinking about one of your favorite films. You're thinking about, how do I possibly replicate, the feeling of watching Forrest Gump for the first time or something like that. That's not what we're talking about per se. But we are talking about storytelling in the context of an organization. This includes primarily the people, personality, programs, products, and promotions that matter to help you, your teams, and your organizations achieve your mission. We'll talk about that more in just a minute here, but we know what a good story is when we see it, and that much more often than not, we experience stories that don't quite hit the mark. And so we want to know what makes the difference. When you break it down into our context, you'll find that there are really three pillars of storytelling in this context. So the first one here is that it has to be engaging. Well, we, the audience, want our attention to be held. We want to feel captivated, right? It has to be some sense of educational. We want to experience something new or be set on a path of discovery. And then finally, we want to be entertained. We want to experience strong emotions and especially moments of delight. So where do we begin? Again, this is a very broad topic, so we'll narrow things down to make a point here. And from what I know from working with folks like you in particular, we do a lot of work with associations and around events in particular. So most of the video content that you'll need to create involves the following 5 activations: people, your personality or your brand, the programs that you hold, the events that you hold, products that you're launching or that are currently living somewhere within your ecosystem, and the promotion that you have around many of these things. So let's go ahead and look at an example of a very common scenario that you'll face. So you have an event coming up and you need to fill up the seats. Excuse me. How are we going to make that happen? What is the story that we're going to use to help us reach our objective? Well, a few years back, Wisdom Capture was a very fledgling company where we've just now entered into our 5th plus year. And we did not have a following. We did not have an audience. We did have a few nice logos and a few solid panelists that were willing to participate, but really didn't have much else. We needed something to really capture people's attention, their limited attention, and get butts and seats for this event. So to create maximum interest, we decided to be as provocative as possible. We chose a topic that continues to bewilder most of us, which is kind of engaging a multi-generational workforce, kind of this, how do different generations, 5 different generations of workforce work well with each other? So let's take a look at the piece now, and we'll kind of break down what was ultimately created here.
There is no way you're of legal age to work, right?
Why are you talking down to me?
Does everything have to have a reason? You really need to stop driving and start ride sharing.
No one asked for your opinion.
Why are you so loyal?
That tie looks super uncomfortable.
Hey, can you just slack that to me? Why are you talking down to me?
Don't be so sensitive.
What are your office hours like? 10 to 2?
You know we're inheriting your mess, right?
Oh, you read that in a newspaper?
Do you really need a raise every 6 weeks?
Relax.
Do you know how long I've worked here?
Yes, I know how long you worked here.
Why do you think change is such a bad thing?
Facebook?
Snapchat?
Twitter?
Instagram?
Can't you just figure it out for yourself?
All right, so to break that one down, we want to look at 3 story devices that are critically important for our context. So number 1, duration. Being brief in the context that we're discussing is almost always the right thing to do. It gives you the best chance of people deciding to engage, keeping them engaged, and to make sure they actually walk away with something very simple and powerful. Next, we want to choose a device. What is that plot device? What's that story device that we want to use to really get people's attention to actually accomplish our goal here? Because we wanted to be as provocative as possible, we decided to use this age-old device of a rhetorical question. So the question needed to be simple enough to leave the viewer with a decisive position as to whether they agreed or disagreed, but not give them enough time to really think it through. Other devices you could use are, the old show somebody something that kind of start at the end and then go back to the beginning. There's many, many of these. These are classic kind of literary devices that work in visual storytelling as well. And finally, the delivery. Without a moment to think through anything that you were looking at, you were just getting hammered over and over with a diverse set of people, opinions, tones, and topics. And it really, really worked well for something that was provocative, and it resonated well with the group. And ultimately, the event was much more well attended than we had even hoped for. So what are some of the keys to success here? Like anything else, and I'm sure you're all very versed in, you have to have a kind of a single source of truth, that somebody that's going to lead the project, that's going to understand the goals, that's going to set the goals in many cases. And in this case, it's a project CEO. You have to name this project CEO and be very careful about their workload. If you're spreading them thin, if they do not have the tools and the resources to succeed, you of course are setting somebody up for failures. And also you have to empower your project CEO to operate with autonomy by giving objectives and not directives. I think we'll talk about this later on here, but there is this, too many cooks in the kitchen thing can happen so very quickly. And especially when, I hate to say it because I can do this myself, like when executive leadership leans in sometimes, it can create some problems. Next, we want to have a clear objective, making sure that there's an unmistakable and singular objective that the project's used to guide itself is paramount. By all means, you can set a stretch objective so that people can reach up to something higher, but do not overburden the team and the project with an unrealistic goal. Next, we want to talk about a workflow. We believe that structure creates better creative outcomes. So even though creative is kind of, many people think of it as this kind of antithesis of like being structured. Our chief creative, Matt Mangum on our team, for example, is he's the quintessential creative. He's kind of a little bit all over the place, a little bit kind of, it almost comes off as being like a little loopy, but when we find that they are structured in how we work through things, there are better outcomes. Our particular workflow here that we use now ad nauseum to create successful pieces is to first start off with a writer's room. Imagine this like a brainstorming session on, hyper focused. You have a moderator, you have somebody that's leading through the discussion, and then you have a diverse set of stakeholders that are not only encouraged to share opinions, but they're kind of expected to. They're really, really demanded to come up with ideas, to come up with concepts, to come up with things that will help ultimately build out the best possible project. You also then, from there, you build a creative brief. This is more of like an outline for what's to come. And then finally, a creative treatment, which is, here is exactly what we are going to produce. You likely have all heard the old measure twice, cut once, or Abe Lincoln, or whoever it was attributed to, I believe it was Abe Lincoln, is give me 4 hours to cut down a tree, I'll spend the first 3 sharpening the axe. It is really, really important before you break ground actually executing on a creative project, a story, building a piece of content, that you know exactly what you are aiming at, or you will find many, many problems to come there. And next, the creative talent. Each story that you create will have different creative demands. Absolutely. You won't always need to bring in a specialized team like Wisdom Capture to execute on these things. Although, again, the point of this one is you have to match the demands of the project with the creative talent. But who is it on your team that's going to be able to speak to this particular thing? It might be somebody from a department that isn't typically tapped to come in and share their opinion on a certain subject. But it is really important that you get the right people in the room to be able to execute well. So what are some of the challenges that we face to actually delivering excellence in storytelling? This one is probably number one, and it is really, it's a dicey one to figure out, but overly complicated stories just do not land well. Unless you're talking about, again, going back to like a film or something like that, you might have seen a film like something David Lynch or something like that, that is, you're supposed to, it's complex by design to make you feel, anxiety or something, some sort of dramatic effect like that. But in the terms of this context, it has to be very, very, very simple. When you don't have a project CEO, you do get this no cook or too many cooks in the kitchen problem. We can all recall a handful of times where that's happened to us and it had negative effects on the project. And a big learning lesson that this has taken many years to realize is that especially when you've already got something to kind of, here's version 1, let's go ahead and share it. Make sure you are very, very, very selective in who you share that with. I know everybody wants to see it, especially when it's a very important piece. But what happens is if you loop somebody down an email or, a Slack channel or, a kind of a messenger channel, people will feel compelled to share. They'll feel like they are expected to share their opinion. And heaven forbid that they are articulate, they're very charismatic, they're very convincing, and a piece of feedback that is not ultimately productive to the project gets through. This is really, really, really where bad things happen. Most often it's executive leadership that causes this problem. If you do find yourself as an executive leader or a senior leader on a project being too heavy-handed in something like this, step back and ask yourself, am I being truly productive in this case? Am I letting, again, am I doing a good job of providing autonomy and trusting my team? If you hired them for a reason, they're there for a reason. You have to begin to trust them, even when it comes to something like this in creative. Things can seem very confusing. Ooh, but I wanted this in there. Ooh, but I wanted that in there. There is a reason why the thing was created in the first place. If you did go through that workflow, then you know that you are very, very, very close to the outcome that you need. It's more of a thing of tweaks rather than heavy-handed surgery. Next is just poor clarity on the true objective of the story. This is kind of the failure to answer the question, what's the point? In short format stories, you must limit the point of the story to one single thing. You do not get to do two things in your story. You can provide context, which I guess could be seen as different elements, but what is the point of the story should be able to be answered with a single phrase. The point of the story is X. Oftentimes it's going to be a business objective or something like that. And finally, we have the inability to recall the best stories for the right moments. So we're going to show a wisdom capture now from Cynthia Mills. She's part of ASAE. If you don't already know her, she's a fantastic, fantastic leader. And we're going to watch a little nugget of wisdom from her on a toolkit of stories.
And so when we think about our careers and our career arcs, we think about all the preparation and things that we get ready to do for an interview. And one of the things that I find happens often is that these really talented people have forgotten their own stories and their own career path. And so I find myself often suggesting to people that they need to go back and literally physically put themselves in the moment in the career positions that they've had, and to think about those moments where either there was a linchpin moment that is a story that shows their ability to solve a problem or to pull a team together to do something extraordinary that they didn't think was possible, or to try a skill set out that is really a practice moment for them. Because what happens is in interview settings, you're sitting there and you're tense, but you've practiced and you're ready to go. And then somebody asks you that question and you think, I don't know how to respond to that. But if you've got a toolkit of stories that are ready, it allows your mind to capture that moment and allows you actually to come across as someone who is, polished and poised and who's able to relate in literally a second to whatever it is that you're being asked to do. And so I found that the moments that I prepare for by being familiar with my own story, whether it's me recording videos of me telling my own stories to myself so I don't forget them, or whether it's writing down in a journal if you particularly like that, or taking notes and simply being able to pull up your phone and remember your stories before you walk into those critical moments. We forget forget our accomplishments along the way. It's not the awards. It's not those moments. It's literally the moments when we're able to capitalize on our own skill sets, or bring people together to accomplish amazing things. And knowing those stories is really critical, and being able to tell them is also particularly helpful when you see someone you care about professionally in a crisis, and you can pull out one of those stories, and those are moments that you can treasure when you can be able to help somebody too.
So we're going to move along to extending the life of content now, but I just want to recap on storytelling there at the end. Something that hits me every time I see that is that oftentimes we forget our accomplishments. Of course, that was very geared towards the individual level, but as organizations, we have to remember the things that have happened along the way that really do matter, that did matter once upon a time, and not forget those things, not neglect those things. Those can be useful and for shaping a piece of content that's even made year 2, 3 later, to remember, hey, this is what our identity is. It's like knowing your founding story is very important for a small business. It's often, as you get older and older and older as a company, it can become less and less relevant. However, there are some things in there that I know will be useful for helping to keep in mind as you shape stories more and more as you create content. So the other thing we want to talk about today is extending the life of content. This is something that, everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to reuse content as much as possible. They want to maximize the investment and time and resources that they spent building that content in the first place. And, the most critical part to begin is, if it deserves to be made in the first place, it deserves to be made well. And because if you do not care enough, if you do not invest the time and the energy into creating that piece of content originally, then you will find that it's just not something you're going to be proud enough of to show off again and again. You have to care enough to be able to maximize the utility of this piece moving forward. Now, as a leader, it's your obligation to ensure the people that are executing the work are passionate about it, correct? Especially the project CEO in this case. And then through the project CEO, that passion is passed along to whoever is going to be participating in that, your creative talent pool. It's understandable with how strapped for time and bandwidth and resources with so many today in today's workforce are. But one thing that we see that's really, really a bummer, and oftentimes we do have trouble overcoming, is that our partners view creating content as a burden versus an opportunity. It is, you have to do work. That if you want to look at that as a burden, that's, that is a drain of your time, of course. But each time you have the chance to create a piece of content, it is an opportunity to do something well. If you have the opposite mentality, obviously that leads to poor planning, cutting corners, confusing narratives, and overall poor outcomes. So what are some triggers to determine when content can be reused? The life cycle of that can be extended. Particular changes are changes in audience, demographics, things like that, audience needs, changes in identity. This could be the identity of a product, your brand itself. It could be the identity of an event you're shaping, the identity, for example, if you are launching a new signal destination platform with Juno, there is an identity here that we have to work through, right? And so what are some pieces of content that we can use from the past that can actually help to, help people feel grounded, help them feel like, hey, it's still us, not just, this is all different. I don't know where to start. Those pieces can be used for helping to navigate that change. Changes in society, obviously, when there's macro changes around the world, the news cycle's changing, things are happening. There's always a chance that you might have a piece of content that can be refreshed or reused for that need. And then you change in business objectives, of course. Understanding how audience needs change, how business objectives change is going to make us more adept at extending the life of content. And now the better that you come at anticipating these changes, when some of these are going to happen, the better your outcomes will be in redeploying that existing content. So y'all remember the old recycle, reduce, reuse song from back in the day? This is really the best place to start using some sort of framework for this. In reality, we have two more that go on the back end of this, but this recycle, reduce, reuse is the most simple and effective way to immediately start to reuse content. The first off is in the recycle phase that timing is everything, right? Most of us have never been busier than we are in the past 2 years. You're finding backup venues, trying to match kind of previous output with a scaled down team, challenges of work-life balance when you're remote or hybrid in terms of workplace. And oftentimes the lowest hanging fruit here is making content on demand. But what happens with that many times is that it makes the content feel less special. So if there's no time constraint, then I'll just get to that later. If you make that time scarce, if you make it, not like here's everything all at once, you might find, I find that it does make things feel more special, and it does give them a better chance of being engaged with. Another thing you can do for this recycling, just thinking about the word cycle, is look at your content calendar. Find upcoming moments of significance, whether those are holidays, internal, milestones and things like that, big events that you have, and then add that piece of content to a new communication cycle. Next, we're going to move along to reduce. We all find ourselves kind of swimming in the sea of long form content that we've already recorded, especially with online events. You do find that, I've got this 10-minute breakout session. I've got this 2-hour keynote. It's pretty unruly to digest in that form. So being able to reduce that down into a more digestible and attractive length can give it a whole new life. First off, it's not just kind of, let's take this thing and let's cut it down and then let's put it back out there. You have to go back to the top and say, what is the new objective here? Who is the new project CEO for this? We know that we want to use this. We know that there was some real nice nuggets of wisdom or, key learnings that were shared in these segments. We have to get this back down to a way of figuring out the goal and setting that first. Next, we have to figure out what the right pieces are. In our workflow, we use a software called frame.io. There's another one that's very similar called Wipster, WIPSTER.io. I can share these with you after. But these are very, very, very functional for taking. You drop a big video in somewhere, and then along the way, you can make comments and you can easily identify things as if you would, highlighting a piece of text in a blog post or something like that. Very, very, very functional and very collaborative. It's got a backing of Adobe, so it's a really solid piece of software. And then Google Sheets to make tagging easier. Once upon a time for like UNICEF and for ASAE and for Visa and for many of our other partners that we work with to create a lot of content, we front load a lot of that work in tagging for emotional profiles, tagging for what business objectives this piece of content can be used for, scoring these things. This is 1 out of 5 for quality of the message, quality of the delivery of the message, all these different things, so that when we want to go back and cut something down, we can kind of redeploy that based off an existing tagging system. So once those best pieces have been identified, you might find that it could work well just in sort of like a compilation, like let's put this together with this and this and this and this, and still fit in an acceptable length of time. But otherwise, you might find that you can segment some of these out into bite-sized pieces and use for things like social media, highlights in newsletters, posts on company intranets, education, internal education, community education can also work very well for things like this when you do reduce things down. Next, we're going to get to reuse. I'm not sure if anyone uses Reddit, but there is this saying throughout the larger community, which is that the real joke is in the comments. So imagine basically in Reddit's case, you're scrolling through the main pages, you're seeing the photos, you're seeing the videos, you're seeing kind of the very, very top line of everything. When again, you get into the comments here and you realize that the richness is happening in the discourse, in something that somebody said in an observation. And so finding those little nuggets of wisdom that only some % of your audience is going to come across inherently, and sharing those with the rest of your audience is really, really, really important. I mean, oftentimes you're at an event and the keynote was really good and you had a great time, and it's something to converse about and whatnot. It's one thing to connect over. But in those breakout sessions or in smaller networking sessions is when the real richness oftentimes happens. And so missing those it should make you feel compelled to go along, go back through content, or identify it in real time that this is something that we want to use again, and make sure that that's put to good use. The next one here is moving along from recycle, reduce, use is refresh. So this is what we have come to call modernizing content. This is a bit more involved than the other methods because it just requires more bandwidth. But because of that, you do end up with content that has a really like a new life. Now, this is from the product life cycle. This is something that might be a stretch for some in this case, but many of the things that we use and depend on today are on the refresh plan. So iPhones, laptops, televisions, your browsers, software, etc. These all kind of take the bones of an existing good thing and give it a refresher. It's a new button, a new trim, a new kind of shiny object to delight the user. The same goes for your content. It's worth just imagining it in this way that, again, if it had good bones once, the bones, if the bones are good, that kind of the house doesn't fall over. And the same goes for refreshing content. Wisdom Capture frequently refreshes content for partners who have updated branding, experienced large turnover or growth, and also for partners that have multiple events throughout the year. One thing might work for your event in January, and then give it a slight refresh for the event, follow up in April, and then again something like an award ceremony at the end of the year. It's important again that the original content was good enough so that you can refresh versus having to rebuild. You do not want to find yourself in that position too often. And then finally, this concept of reimagining content. We've seen how your reasons for making a piece of content are full of intention in the first place. These are moments of significance linked to some of your most important business objectives. But you have to think, how has the playing field changed? What small tweaks can be made to the original content in order for it to take on a whole new meaning? Or how can the content be leveraged in other departments to achieve a new goal? This does involve giving yourself white space. It's very, very hard for us in this busy world to give ourselves white space. But this is something where white space is very, very critical for succeeding. We find that another thing is when you're looking for a partner, good partners ask what, and this could be people on your team as well. Great partners ask, why are we doing that? What is the point of this? And then the best partners that you'll find will make your why their own. So finally, the last thought is that whatever you do, you want to make people feel. If you feel something in a story, that is usually the thing that keeps you interested, that keeps you engaged, that causes some sort of behavior activation. So do not let this one slide. Whatever you do, make people feel. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open it up to discussion here. I do need to just rejoin. I have done something on my own here that has caused me to lose a window. So I'm just going to go ahead and rejoin very quickly, and then we'll have a discussion.
Thank you so much, Kyle.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're back.
I think he's really. I think you're still here. Okay. Jody, he was talking about getting some white space in his life, and I was like, I cannot even imagine having a husband at home with a broken leg and then end up being in the hospital myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my husband got a call, and my boss's name is spelled, it's April, but it's spelled with a Y. And he got the call from her, and he's like, I don't know this name. Wait, Jody's boss's name is spelled weird. Answer. Because he was going to ignore it because it's like midnight, when
Oh
call. So we were coming back from dinner when it happened. So.
All right. Did anyone else take notes? Because I didn't get out a notebook, and somehow I ended up on In-N-Out Burger sticky notes. But I have some areas that I thought might be good for discussion, but I want you to go first.
We're letting you lead.
Yeah.
Is Kyle coming back? Because he was here and then he was gone again.
Yeah, he said he'd be back, but I don't know if he has to go all the way out and come back in. Or... Oh, there he is.
All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Thank you for your patience and thank you for your attention here. So did anybody have any questions on?
I actually have one, Kyle, and
Sure.
it's really around budgeting and planning and convincing decision makers within your organization that this is something you need to invest in. I think a lot of the challenges is that we have, and even in Kristen's case, I know Visit Pittsburgh well, is that our budgets are so limited. How do we make the case to the ultimately who approves the budget that this is something we should be investing in? And why we should be investing in it if they cannot. I mean, it's that age-old thing. I want immediate returns, and often when you do some of these storytelling things, you're not going to see immediate returns. It's going to be returns over a duration of time, but it won't be immediate. So, what advice do you have for us who have very, very, very small budgets and very, very few staff?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think it's. This is like a negotiation tactic at its core. And so many times we're conditioned to think like, ooh, like don't show your hand too early. Well, if you do show your hand early and you can create what the inflection point of the conversation is, I think that's where you really get good outcomes. So instead of saying, we have this video and we want to make this thing and we want you kind of like leading up to somebody, you have to say, here is what the objective is, here is what is going to accomplish it, and here's what it's going to take to get there. Going in that descending order, I think makes it so that here's the most important thing. You're just prioritizing in somebody else's mind, right? It's mental warfare at its finest, but it is really important. Now, let's say you've done all that work and you still get to the point of, okay, here's the price tag. Well, one of the things that works really well for us is the wisdom capture, I should say, is that we are not, I don't know if I'm supposed to not be name dropping, but we're not Freeman. We are not Encore. We're not Projection. We're not one of these gigantic companies that has to justify an overhead that is, it does inflate the numbers. I guess inflate might be unfair to say. It does make things more expensive. We work all the time with our partners to say, what is your budget? And do we believe in what you are doing as well? If we do find that you are a leader or an organization, or there's a project that has, that purpose is much more important than just getting things out the door, we'll work with you. I don't want to say in particular how much of a price reduction that we passed along to our partner last week. This was for this event that I was telling you about, the Women in Leadership Development's annual meeting. But it was such a powerful project that we believed that we wanted to work on without it wasn't like, if we do this, we're going to get in front of this many eyeballs. It was, this is the right time in society. This is the right, leader. That they did have a very charismatic and wonderful leader that I bought into. And ultimately something that would have cost them, literally 8-10x what we ultimately charged them, we were able to do, and I guarantee it was better than anything they had done in previous years. They told us so much so, but I think that you have to look at your bullpen of vendors. You have to look at your bullpen of people and say, how can I get this done better? Better and for less. If price is the main metric of the conversation.
Are you talking to Diane about internally, if you have a team of people who are JCPenney shoppers, getting them bought into the idea that something from Nordstrom is going to last longer?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think, as we continue to climb out of this pandemic, we were all faced with very tough decisions and very hard cuts within our budgets. Yeah. And in ISCB's case, we were very fortunate to have a strong reserve that enabled us to continue all of our programs without having to cut any one significant program. But now, I do expect that leadership is going to want to start to see that deficit go down instead of increase. And it's that game of, okay, we are investing here. This is now we have to meet this level of, either audience growth or registration growth or whatever you want to call it. But I also think that our board has a job to do to actually define audience growth before we can even take these steps. I feel like I'm way above the curve because in 2015, we actually started doing these little interview captures. And I brought someone to our conference and we had a camera, and it wasn't a high production type of video capture. It was just the conversation that we brought in old leaders, new leaders, and we just had a conversation with them about, why is ISCB important to you and what has it done to help you advance your career? And we've used some of those snippets. Now, I don't know that I would use them now because it's been 7 years and people change and technology changes, but it had great bones to it. And you're actually looking at our visual production manager and also the creative person and the tech person who puts it all together. So Bill does. So it's also that balance time for me.
I do have one more thought here, which it goes along with kind of like expanding your bullpen or evaluating your bullpen. The best way to put somebody else to work here, you have limited time. How can you put other people to work to figure it out for you is a limited or very, very directed RFP. And you go, okay, this is what we need. You tell me, oftentimes we get RFP, we fill out RFPs that we know. This is like the creative agency world gets a little dicey because, there's the creative agency is the middleman. Then you have, and the layer is the creative agency has somebody in their own bullpen that they already want to work with, that they just need to show 3 RFPs. They already know who they're going to work with. But if you can find a way to work directly with potential vendors and let them expand on these thoughts, well, I mean, there's a lot of best case scenarios here, right? I mean, you're getting better ideas. A good vendor or a good potential partner should not be afraid to share ideas. You're not giving away everything, but my pitch would be, hey, we want to do something really provocative. We want it to be punchy. We want it to be fast. It's going to be this long, etc. You can use that for yourself, or you can just, again, evaluate, is the juice worth the squeeze? And for those people that Dana made a really good point, is JCPenney even around anymore? But
yes, if you need a black skirt, you go to JCPenney.
There you go. I was going to say Ross versus Nordstrom's Rack, but I'd still shop at Ross like this. So, but if you have somebody who does not understand why this thing is this much and why this thing is that much, and they're used to this thing, then again, with the RFP process, you go, hey, copy paste. Here's the work portfolios. Like send in a PDF, send in a web page that has your best work, send in your most relevant work. You just go option A, this much. Here's the work. Yeah. Option B, et cetera, et cetera. These things do take time, but I think, like anything else, you go in with a plan, you own the negotiation, you own the metric of, the lever of mechanism of action, and that's what you use to make the pitch. Great question. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody working on anything right now that they're scratching their heads over?
I actually liked your comment about like taking bigger content and paring it down. We're working on a virtual program that's intensive on like virtual training in classrooms. And we're going to be pulling on-demand content from previous conferences as like kind of a secondary benefit. And I was like, I wonder what story is in those clips that match our marketing. Like if you could take pieces from each one of those kind of big names and have them almost having like a conversation about virtual training, like could you create that story? So absolutely. I wrote that down thinking like, because I'm currently editing the copy right now that my boss wrote. She starts big and then I go, how are you going to do this? And then I pare it down a little bit to something I can make happen. So she's like, cut out what you don't think you can do. So I was looking at that though, and I was like, I feel like some of that story is in those kind of on demand, and they're all big names that are going to be speaking either at the conference or included in that content or resources we're providing. So like using their notoriety and their words to kind of build our story.
Absolutely. So this is a great one. We're just going through this right now with a big partner of ours, nonprofit education space, who there is budget, but there's not enough budget of time. So it's like you have to accomplish this objective with stuff that you've already shot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can we do it? Yes, we can do it. But what the best answer is here is that you would have a little bit of new content to help shape that thing. So I don't know, Jody, if it's you or if it's someone on your team, or so often we can think off the top of our heads, like, if I wanted somebody from my community to tell a story, who would I pick? I mean, you probably have somebody like with, I forget if it's with IFT or it might be with American College of Chess Physicians right now. We're going to be taking over this program that they call Billy on the Street. It's like their Billy is this like charismatic guy. He's running around the conference. He's getting sound bites and things like that. I am sure that Billy or your Billy would be willing to say, hey, everybody, we're super excited to launch this new program. We've got a lot of pieces of content here, but what we want you to understand is that through this experience, you're going to come away with this, that, and that. So first off, let's hear from, this person. You have to tee it up. Let somebody kind of, again, it's like this engaging, entertaining piece that we crave and we just ultimately can't connect with otherwise. I think if you don't have that already, if it does not fit, if a simple little title card, putting up a couple words on the screen won't fit well enough, then, if you don't have an iPhone already, this thing, we just shot an event with 2 iPhone 13s. We shot 70% of the content on iPhone 13s, and nobody would have ever known the difference. It was a limited budget, but seriously, we look back in this thing and we're like, holy crap, that was awesome. It was really, really a job well done. So you've got this thing right here. Buy yourself a $10 desktop tripod. We send these things out as remote filming kits. This little 5-foot lavalier microphone. I think the all-in cost is like $25 to build one of these remote filming kits. And your production value goes way up, way quick. I mean, Diane, even if you don't want to bring out a full team, something like that on site, it's obnoxiously good. For us, it's obnoxiously good. We wish we were blown out all the time, but we understand that, these new tools can really, really make things look slick. So, and then Jody, I would say, do please look into this service I was talking about, frame.io. That's the website. I think you can get free trials up to a certain amount of megabytes or whatever. If not, then the other one is whipster.io. Whipster.io, I know is slightly less expensive. It accomplishes the same thing. You can put it out there and just treat it like it's a blog post and highlight things and make comments at the perfect time. It's very, very, very easy to use and very helpful for something like you're doing.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, we did our virtual send off because, we plan ahead. And we like knew what we wanted, but the people we wanted were going to be on site. So a lot of them filmed it on their phone, sent it to us. It got edited by someone more professional than myself, and then put it all together. And then we just got into YouTube and then into our platform. Overnight.
There you go.
The iPhone is filming a much better piece of content than you'd realize.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I know several of you had to jump at the hour, but I want to keep talking. But any other questions? Should we table some of those, or do you want to popcorn them out?
Yeah, and please feel free. If you don't have it already, I can leave you my email. I promise. I don't know if it's part of the Flight Commander program per se, but I promise that I will be a resource for you. Just for ideas and check this thing out. I'm happy to work with you on whatever you're working on.
Thank you, Kyle.
Absolutely.